My name is Jonda, and I want to share a story that has been weighing on me for years. I'm 29 years old, married to my husband who's 32, and we've been together for nearly a decade. Our marriage has had its ups and downs like any long relationship, but there's one situation that has always unsettled me, and no matter how much I try to ignore it, it keeps creeping back into my mind. The way my husband interacts with his cousin. Now, on paper, that probably doesn't sound like a big deal. Cousins joke, cousins laugh, cousins share family stories. But what I've been witnessing all these years feels different enough that I can't just shrug it off. His cousin is a woman around his age, and every time they're together, it's like the rest of the world disappears for them. They tease each other, shove each other, laugh loudly, and tell stories as if they're the only two people in the room. Here's the part that stings. While they're lost in their own bubble, I feel invisible. She hardly speaks to me. She avoids eye contact like I don't exist. And when she does interact, it's superficial at best. But with my husband, she's all smiles, energy, and constant attention. Every time we're around her, she brings up the same childhood stories about him, telling them like it's the most entertaining thing in the world. Even though everyone has heard them countless times before, it doesn't help that she's objectively beautiful, outgoing, confident, the kind of person who knows how to command attention in a room. And while she's married herself, her husband's reaction doesn't exactly reassure me. I've seen the way he handles these interactions. In the beginning, he tried to join in, probably to show he was comfortable with it. But now, when the two of them start their back and forth teasing, he just looks down, almost like he's resigned or embarrassed. Watching him makes me feel less alone, because it tells me I'm not the only one who thinks something about this dynamic is off. From my husband's perspective, it's harmless fun. When I've tried to bring it up, he insists on being too sensitive or reading into things that aren't there. But it doesn't feel that simple to me. It's not just about whether they're crossing a line in the obvious sense. It's about how their behavior makes me feel in my own marriage. I feel ignored and important and left out of what should be shared family time. I also can't ignore the timing. My husband and I have been struggling in our relationship recently. We've hit some rough patches, and that naturally makes me feel more insecure. But even when things between us were better, watching the two of them together never sat well with me. It has always felt unusual, especially because I've never seen grown male and female cousins behave this way as adults. Maybe other families are different, but for me, this dynamic is something I can't normalize. That's why I wanted to tell this story. It's not just about cousins playing around. It's about the way these little patterns of behavior can chip away at a partner's confidence, how they can quietly feed resentment, and how they can highlight problems in a marriage that might already be struggling. In the next section, I'll share how this ongoing situation has started to affect not just my self-esteem, but also the way I see my marriage, and why it's so hard to shake the feeling that something isn't right. The more this dynamic continues, the more it affects me on an emotional level. It's not just about watching two people roughhouse or tease each other, it's about what it stirs up inside me. When I see my husband laughing and smiling with her in ways he rarely does with me anymore, I can't help but feel a pang of comparison. It makes me wonder if I'm missing something, if I'm no longer the person who brings out that joy in him. Her behavior toward me adds another layer. She doesn't outright insult me or say anything cruel, but her silence and avoidance speak volumes. No eye contact, no effort to include me in the conversation, no acknowledgement that I'm sitting right there beside him. It's like she creates this little bubble around the two of them, and I'm left sitting outside of it. That kind of exclusion doesn't have to be loud to be hurtful. It builds slowly, each encounter leaving me more frustrated and invisible. What makes it even harder is how repetitive it is. She tells the same childhood stories about him again and again, as if she can't let go of that time in their lives. Maybe she thinks it's funny or nostalgic. But to me, it feels like she's clinging to a version of him that only she wants to highlight. It's strange, because instead of creating new conversations with the group or with me, she always circles back to him. And then there's her husband. Watching his reactions has been eye-opening. Early on, he'd laugh and try to join in, probably thinking it was harmless. But now, he just seems tired of it. He sits back, lowers his gaze, and lets them carry on without him. That change tells me I'm not the only one who finds this uncomfortable. If everything between them was truly harmless and lighthearted, why would he seem so checked out now? These moments don't just make me uncomfortable in the moment, they also follow me home. I start to question why my husband can be so animated with her, but feels so heavy or distant with me. I wonder if it's just the stress of our marriage, or if being around her genuinely brings out a part of him I don't get to see anymore. Either way, it leaves me feeling inadequate. That's the part I can't shake, the comparisons, the silence, and the sense that I'm always standing on the outside. It's not about jealousy in the traditional sense. It's about being ignored in situations where I should feel included and respected. And when this cycle repeats over and over, it starts to eat away at how I see myself in this marriage. In the next section, I'll talk about the conversations I've tried to have with my husband, how he tends to brush my feelings aside, and why the reaction leaves me even more conflicted. Talking to my husband about this hasn't been easy. I've brought it up more than once, trying to explain how I feel, but the conversation rarely goes the way I hope. Instead of listening, he usually tells me I'm overthinking or that I'm being too sensitive. He insists that the way he and his cousin act is normal, just something they've always done since childhood. I get that. But the issue isn't about their past, it's about how their present behavior affects me now. Every time he dismisses my feelings, I walk away feeling smaller, like my perspective doesn't matter in our marriage. It turns into me questioning myself instead of us working on the problem together. Was I too harsh? Did I say it wrong? Am I really imagining something that isn't there? Those doubts keep circling in my head long after the conversation ends. What frustrates me most is that I'm not asking for something unreasonable. I'm not asking him to cut off his cousin or stop speaking to her. I'm asking for awareness, for him to see how their dynamic makes me feel like I don't belong in my own relationship. Even small changes like including me in the jokes or being mindful of how much time they spend locked into each other would help. But because he waves it off as just how we are, nothing changes. Sometimes I wonder if he avoids acknowledging my concerns because that would mean admitting the behavior ain't as harmless as he thinks. It would mean facing the fact that other people like her husband also notice. Ignoring it is easier. But for me, ignoring it isn't possible anymore. Each time it happens, the discomfort grows. And I feel like the gap between us widens. I also want to be clear. I don't believe my husband is trying to hurt me. I don't think he has romantic feelings for her. To him, it's probably nothing more than old habits. But even if his intentions aren't harmful, the impact still hurts. That's the part one need him to understand. The longer this continues, the harder it becomes to trust that he'll ever really listen. And when you stop feeling heard in a marriage, it doesn't just affect one argument, it affects everything. It makes you feel lonely even when you're sitting right next to the person you love. In the next section, I'll talk more about the boundaries I've been considering, what feels fair to ask for, and where I think the line has to be drawn in order to protect my self-respect. When I think about this situation, the word that keeps coming to my mind is boundaries. Every relationship has to have them. It doesn't matter if it's a marriage, a friendship, or a family connection. Boundaries are what keep relationships healthy and respectful. Without them, people can cross lines without even realizing it. And those small moments of discomfort pile up until they become something heavier. That's where I feel like I am right now. The truth is, I don't want to come across as the jealous wife who makes a big deal of nothing. I've actually spent a lot of time questioning myself, asking if I'm being too harsh or unreasonable. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that what I'm asking for isn't controlling. It isn't dramatic, and it isn't unfair. It's simply about respect. One of the clearest boundaries I've identified is inclusion. When my husband and his cousin are together, it often feels like they step into their own private world. They laugh, shove each other, retell old childhood stories, and tease in ways that completely shut me out. I'm left sitting on the side, smiling awkwardly, not sure if I should try to jump in or just stay quiet. The problem is, no matter what I do, it feels like I don't belong. If I try to join in, I get brushed off. If I stay quiet, I feel invisible. What I need is for my husband to notice and make the effort to bring me into the conversation. Inclusion isn't about being the center of attention. It's about not being treated like I don't exist while the two of them are in their bubble. The physical side of their interactions is another boundary I keep circling back to. Maybe to them, shoving, poking, and grabbing each other's arms is nothing more than old habits from when they were kids. But to me, it doesn't feel appropriate anymore. They're not 12 years old. They're adults, both married, and their behavior carries different weight now. If I were roughhousing like that with a male cousin or a close male friend, I can almost guarantee my husband wouldn't be okay with it. And if the situation wouldn't be acceptable in reverse, then it shouldn't be acceptable in this direction either. Fair is fair. I also think about how this looks to other people. It's one thing if I'm the only one feeling uncomfortable, but I know I'm not. I've seen the way her husband reacts. In the beginning, he would laugh along and try to participate, probably to show he was relaxed about it. But now, it's the opposite. He withdraws, lowers his gaze, and checks out completely. It's like he doesn't even want to acknowledge what's happening anymore. Watching him makes me feel a strange mix of sadness and validation. Sadness, because I can see he's hurting too. Validation, because it confirms I'm not imagining this. If both of us spouses, who are supposed to be the closest people in their lives, are sitting on the sea, the line's feeling ignored, something about this situation isn't right. The hardest part about setting boundaries is knowing how they'll be received. I know my husband loves me. I know he doesn't mean to hurt me. But I also know he doesn't see what I see. When I've tried to talk to him about it, he brushes me off, saying it's nothing or that I'm overthinking. That dismissal makes me afraid to bring it up again, because I don't want to sound like a broken record or come across as controlling. But keeping it bottled up isn't working either. It only makes me feel more distant from him. I keep reminding myself that boundaries aren't about control. They're not about keeping him from seeing his cousin or telling him who he can spend time with. They're about protecting the health of our marriage and protecting my own self-respect. I deserve to feel like I matter in my relationship. I deserve to feel like my husband has my back, even in small social situations. And I deserve to know that if something makes me uncomfortable, he won't just laugh it off, but will actually take it seriously. I've tried to imagine what healthy boundaries could look like in this situation. For one, I think he could simply be mindful of including me in the conversations. If his cousin is focusing all her attention on him, he could redirect a little, bring me in, or even gently point out that I'm sitting right there. That would show me that I matter. Another change could be cutting back on the physical playfulness. It might feel harmless to them, but as adults, it sends the wrong message and creates unnecessary tension for both me and her husband. And finally, I think it would help if he could acknowledge my feelings instead of brushing them off. Even just saying, I get why you feel that way, and I'll try to be more aware, would go a long way. None of these requests are outrageous. They're not about taking away his relationship with his cousin. They're about balancing it so that I don't feel like the outsider in my own marriage. But until he's willing to hear me, these boundaries are only in my head, not in practice. And that's where my struggle lies. In the next section, I'll talk about where all of this leaves me emotionally, how it makes me question not just my husband's awareness, but also the long-term health of our marriage, and what choices I might eventually have to face if nothing changes. Lately, I've been asking myself where this leaves me when something keeps repeating. When it doesn't get better no matter how many times you bring it up, you eventually reach a crossroads. That's where I feel like I am now. I'm at a point where I'm questioning not just my husband's awareness, but also the long-term health of our marriage. It's not that I want to give up. If that were the case, I wouldn't even be sharing this story. The fact that I'm still talking about it, still analyzing it, still hoping for change, shows how much I care. But love alone doesn't solve these issues. Respect, attention, and action are what make a relationship feel safe. Right now, I don't feel those things as consistently as I should. I catch myself wondering, if nothing changes, can I keep living with this? Can I keep showing up to family gatherings where I know I'll be ignored? Where I'll watch the two of them slip into their own bubble while I sit quietly beside him, trying not to look upset? Can I keep feeling like I'm competing for attention, not with another woman he's secretly dating, but with a cousin who doesn't know how to set boundaries? That question has been haunting me because the honest answer is no, I can't live with this forever. A marriage can survive rough patches, disagreements, and outside stresses, but it can't thrive when one partner constantly feels unseen. And that's what this situation has created for me. A sense of being invisible, not just to his cousin, but sometimes to him too. It's not just about the cousin. That's the surface level issue. Underneath it, this has revealed something deeper, a lack of communication and validation in my marriage. When I tell him how I feel and he brushes it off, that hurts more than watching him roughhouse with her. Because in those moments, it's not just her ignoring me, it's him ignoring me too. That's the part that leaves the biggest scar. I've thought about the options in front of me. One option is to keep quiet and accept it, but that would mean burying my feelings and slowly letting resentment grow. Another option is to keep speaking up, but I worry that if he never takes it seriously, I'll just exhaust myself repeating the same conversation. The third option, the hardest one to even say out loud, is that if nothing changes, I may have to reevaluate the future of this marriage. That doesn't mean I want to walk away tomorrow. It means I need to be honest with myself about what I can and cannot accept long-term. Marriage is about compromise, but it's not about erasing yourself to keep the peace. If I compromise to the point where I don't feel respected, then it's not really a compromise, it's a sacrifice of my own self-worth. At the same time, I still have hope. I still believe my husband could change if he really understood how much this hurts me. Maybe he doesn't realize the depth of my feelings. Maybe he thinks I'm just irritated in the moment, instead of realizing that each encounter adds another layer to the hurt. If he could look past the surface and see how this truly affects me, I think he would want to do something about it. I want to believe that. I've also been thinking about what it would take for me to feel secure again. It's not just about stopping the roughhousing. It's about rebuilding trust and showing me that my feelings matter. It's about including me in conversations, showing me he sees me, and proving that my voice matters as much as his cousin's laughter. Those are the things that would make me feel like we're truly partners again. This isn't an easy place to be. It's painful to love someone deeply and at the same time feel hurt by the way they dismiss your concerns. It's confusing to know they're not trying to hurt you, but still feel the sting of their choices. And it's exhausting to keep balancing between patience and frustration, hope and disappointment. Where it leaves me now is in a place of reflection. I'm weighing what matters most, my need for respect, my hope for change, and the reality of what I've experienced so far. It's not a decision I can make overnight, but it is a decision I know I'll eventually have to face, because living in this cycle forever and something I can do. In the final section, I'll talk about what I've learned from all of this, what it's taught me about myself, about relationships, and about the importance of being heard in a marriage. Reaching this point in the story, I've realized that while so much of my focus has been on my husband and his cousin, the bigger picture is actually about me. It's about my own voice, my boundaries, my needs, and whether or not I'm willing to silence myself to keep the peace. For years, I've put my discomfort in the background, convincing myself it wasn't big enough to bring up or that maybe I was just being dramatic. But if there's anything this experience has taught me, it's that small hurts repeated over time don't stay small. They add up, they shape how you see yourself, and they shape how you see your relationship. I've learned that I can't just measure my marriage by how much love exists between us. Love is important, of course, but it's not the whole story. Respect is just as important. Validation is just as important. The feeling of being seen, heard, and prioritize, those are the things that make love feel safe and sustainable. Without them, love feels shaky. Even when it's real, I've also realized that it's not wrong for me to expect inclusion. It's not wrong for me to want my husband to acknowledge me when we're around his cousin, or for me to want his cousin to treat me with the same basic courtesy she shows him. Those aren't outrageous expectations. They're the foundation of what it means to be part of a family. If I can sit there and show kindness toward her, she can extend that same effort toward me. And if my husband truly values me, he can make sure I never feel invisible in a room where he's present. This situation has also highlighted how damaging dismissive responses can be. Every time I've tried to open up and been told I'm overreacting, I felt another wall go up between us. Communication isn't just about words, it's about listening, validating, and being willing to take action even when you don't fully agree. That's something I know I need from him moving forward. Not perfection, not constant agreement, but willingness. A willingness to say, I hear you, I see why this matters, I'll try to do better. That alone would change so much. When I look ahead, I know I can't control how my husband responds. The only person I can control is myself. I can choose to keep quiet, but that would slowly erase me. I can choose to speak up again, knowing it may or may not get through to him, or I can choose, if things never change, to prioritize my own peace and decide what kind of life I want to live. None of these choices are easy, but they're mine to make, and acknowledging that gives me a sense of strength I didn't always feel before. The irony is that this entire situation, as painful as it's been, has taught me a lot about myself. I've learned that I value respect more than comfort, that I'd rather face an uncomfortable conversation than live in quiet resentment, that my voice matters, even if someone tries to dismiss it. And maybe most importantly, I've learned that boundaries aren't selfish, they're necessary. They don't mean you love someone less. They mean you love yourself enough to expect more. As for my marriage, the future is still being written. I don't know yet how my husband will respond the next time I bring this up. I don't know if his cousin will ever change how she treats me. But I do know that I'll keep advocating for myself. Because staying silent is no longer an option. I refuse to keep feeling like a stranger in my own relationship. So if you've ever found yourself in a similar position, feeling invisible and heard, or brushed aside, I want you to know you're not alone. Your feelings are valid. You don't have to justify why something makes you uncomfortable, and you don't have to shrink yourself to keep the peace. It's okay to expect respect. It's okay to want to feel included, and it's okay to set boundaries, even if other people don't understand them. This may be the hardest season of my marriage, but I'm choosing to see it as a moment of growth. Growth for me as a person, growth for us as a couple if he's willing, and growth in understanding that no relationship is too strong to fail if respect isn't there. At the end of the day, that's what I want most, not perfection, not constant excitement, but respect, attention, and a marriage where I feel like I belong. Before I close this out, if this story resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me keep sharing stories like this. and it creates a space for all of us to feel heard.